Let's talk about something that pretty much all of us think about, but we almost never really talk about, at least not openly: money. And specifically, that constant, kind of low-grade anxiety that just seems to come along with it.
You know, this quote from author Paul Podolsky, it just gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? Money feels like a cage, this set of constraints we all have to live inside of. So the real question isn't about how to escape the cage, because let's be real, for most of us, that's just not on the table. The question is, how do you build a smart strategy to live well inside of it?
And this story, this journey to figure out that strategy, it doesn't start in some fancy boardroom. Nope. It starts on a Brooklyn sidewalk where the author is holding his 3-year-old son's hand and has this gut punch of a realization as he watches a line of rats just casually strolling past his building. And he thinks to himself, this isn't working. Something has got to change right now.
That moment right there, it just crystallizes a problem so many of us feel. We are all in our own way, kind of caged by money. It's this huge source of insecurity. The author points out that we'll send naked pictures of ourselves on dating sites, but we won't tell someone what's in our bank account. Think about that.
And his journey to find that strategy is, well, it's nothing short of remarkable. I mean, he went from being a journalist making 38 grand a year in New York City to becoming a partner at the biggest hedge fund on the planet. Figuring out how he made that leap, well, that's what we're going to unpack.
So the very first step in building a real strategy is facing a really deeply uncomfortable truth. This idea that our financial system is stable, it's a complete illusion.
And here's the core paradox. We want security from our money, but the system itself is built in a way that just can't provide it. Your job, your savings, even the country you live in, the whole thing is, as he says, rickety. The foundation we're all standing on, it is not nearly as solid as we like to pretend it is.
And this illustration shows exactly why. Look at this. For almost all of human history, economic change was basically a flatline. It was slow. Then, bam, the Industrial Revolution hits and everything just shoots straight up. We are living in an era of constant, rapid, and often pretty violent disruption. This is not normal, historically speaking. You know, there's actually a name for this whole process. It was coined by the economist Joseph Schumpeter. He called it creative destruction. It's this idea that capitalism is always in motion, with new ideas and new industries constantly destroying the old ones.
And this is what makes that whole abstract idea of creative destruction feel very, very real. There are clear winners and there are clear losers. Now, if you're on the winning side, hey, it feels like progress. But if you're on the losing side, it feels deeply, deeply unfair. This is the engine that's driving our whole rickety system.
Okay. So if the external world is just pure chaos, where in the world do you even begin? Well, the strategy starts not with stocks or bonds, but with the one and only thing you can actually control.
And that's your internal state. The author argues that your first and most valuable asset isn't something you can buy. It's your mindset. To make good decisions in a world of chaos, you first have to find a way to be internally calm, to manage that emotional yo-yo we all ride. Now, the advice here is so simple to say, but man, it is incredibly hard to do. Sleep, diet, exercise, therapy, meditation. But the key point isn't just to check these boxes. It's to learn how to tell the difference between when you're hijacked by anxiety and when you're actually thinking clearly. That is the real skill. Okay, so once you've started working on that internal calm, what's next? You can actually use that clear mind to build a practical strategy for understanding the financial machine itself. Which leads us to the million-dollar question, right? How on earth do you make sense of a system that is literally designed to be chaotic and disruptive? The answer is you use frameworks, simple models that take these huge, abstract ideas and make them concrete. Let's take inflation, for example. This formula breaks it down into 3 understandable parts: oil, shelter, and wages. All of a sudden, this big, scary, abstract thing becomes something you can actually wrap your head around and analyze. And that brings us to the absolute core framework for building personal wealth. Just look at these 2 curves. The first one shows the distribution of what people earn. That's the income curve. And the second one shows what people pay for things. That's the spending curve. So the strategy, when you see it this way, is beautifully simple. Step 1. Your goal is to be at the high end of that income curve. You want to get the best possible price for your specific skills. And step 2, you want to live at the low end of the spending curve by consuming as frugally as you can. So this naturally leads to a very, very personal question.
In this whole system of winners and losers, of these different curves and distributions, where do you actually fit in? The data gives us a pretty stark and pretty uncomfortable answer. The author talks about financial castes, and this table on net worth really drives that point home. Someone with a college degree has, on average, more than 10 times the wealth of someone without a high school diploma. These are the hard, cold realities of the system that we're all playing in. So, after all of this, after accepting the chaos, mastering your own mind, understanding the strategy, what's the ultimate goal here? It's not just about getting rich. It's about earning something way more valuable. So let's just put it all together. Being good with money, it's not about some secret stock tip or a magic formula. It's about accepting that the system is unstable, it's about mastering your own psychology, and it's about making conscious, deliberate trade-offs between what you can offer the world and what you really need from it.
And that right there brings us to the ultimate point of this whole difficult journey. The goal isn't just to pile up cash for its own sake. It's this simple, powerful idea that money, when you use it properly, buys you autonomy. It buys you freedom. It buys you the ability to choose your own path. Which leaves us with one final, really powerful question to think about. We've talked about the cage, we've talked about the chaos, and we've talked about the strategy. So now that you understand the rules of the game, what's the first move you're going to make?